Barcelona's biggest problem this season, it's at the back. Defensively, they've been all over the place, conceding soft goals and losing shape. But here's the thing, last season, this wasn't the case. The defense was solid, organized, and confident playing that risky high line. So what changed? Well, one man left, and ever since he was sold, Barcelona's backline hasn't looked the same. So the big question now is, does Hansi Flick regret letting Inigo Martinez go? And more importantly, what can Barcelona do to fix this defensive mess before it costs them even more? This season, Barcelona has been a mix of brilliance and chaos. Going forward, they've actually been impressive, even with all the injuries. They lost Yamal, then Rafinha, then Yamal again, yet somehow the attack hasn't completely fallen apart. Rashford has been sharp, giving that direct pace up front that Barcelona have missed for years. Lewandowski, despite missing that painful penalty in the 4-1 loss to Sevilla, has still been reliable overall. His movement, link-up play, and finishing have carried a lot of the attacking weight. Ferran Torres has also looked good whenever he's played through the middle. On the wings though, he's just not effective. He loses the ball too easily and doesn't stretch defenses enough. And then there's Dani Olmo. His technical quality is undeniable, but his decision-making has been poor. He slows down the tempo when Barcelona needs speed, and too often, he forces passes that kill the rhythm. If Gavi were fit, I think the midfield of Pedri, De Jong and Gavi would have restored that balance. That trio brought control, fluidity and structure, something this current setup lacks. But despite all that, the attack is still functioning. The real problem is at the back. Defensively, Barcelona have looked fragile, and that's putting it lightly. The Sevilla game was the perfect example. The first goal came from Araujo's mistake. He tried to pull down the opponent instead of trusting his position. That unnecessary contact led straight to a penalty. At his level, you can't make that kind of decision. If it were Pau Kubasi, fine, he's young and still learning. But Araujo's? He should know better. Then came the second goal, another defensive lapse. When you play a high line, timing is everything. You need to know when to step up and when to drop back. Araujo didn't make the jump, and Sevilla exploited that space with a quick ball wide, a cutback, and another goal. 2 goals, both caused by poor judgment. And this is what keeps happening. Barcelona's backline gets exposed far too easily. The players aren't in sync, the spacing is off, and when that happens in a high line, it collapses quickly. But here's the thing, it's not about Flick's tactics. His system worked perfectly last season. The issue isn't the structure, it's the execution. Last season, that same high line looked organized, coordinated, and confident. This season, it's falling apart, and that's because the one player who made that defensive system work, the one who held everything together, isn't there anymore. That player was Inigo Martinez, and that's why when you look at the way Barcelona are conceding goals now, you can't help but think, maybe Hansi Flick really does regret selling him, because the system didn't fail. The player who understood it best just isn't there anymore. If there's one game that perfectly sums up Barcelona's defensive issues this season, it's that 4-1 loss to Sevilla. It wasn't just the scoreline, it was how the goals happened. Every single one came from poor defensive decisions and a lack of structure. Before we go any further, don't forget to smash the like and subscribe buttons below. Thank you. The first goal said everything about the current state of the backline. Araujo was too aggressive, trying to pull down the attacker inside the box when he didn't need to. That decision alone handed Sevilla a penalty. At his level, with his experience, that's not something that should still be happening. You expect that kind of mistake from a young defender still learning positioning, not from one who's supposed to lead the line. Then came the second goal, and this one was even more worrying from a tactical point of view. When you're playing a high line, your first job is to read the run before it develops. You need to decide quickly whether to step up or drop back. Araujo hesitated. He didn't step up to close the passing lane, and Sevilla took advantage immediately. A quick switch to the wing, another pass into the middle, and suddenly the ball's in the net. That hesitation breaks the entire structure, because in a high line, one player dropping off at the wrong time ruins the shape for everyone. After that, Rashford got Barcelona back into it with a well-taken goal, and it looked like there was still a way back. But then Lewandowski missed a crucial penalty that could have shifted the game completely. Instead of fighting back, the team lost momentum, and Sevilla took full control. The third goal came from another individual error. The goalkeeper misjudging a shot he should have handled comfortably. And then the fourth? It was the same pattern repeating again. The high line got broken by a simple through ball. The defenders were caught running back towards their own goal, and Sevilla punished them again. When a team concedes goals like that, it's natural to question the system. But watching closely, you realize it's not the tactics. Flick's structure is solid. The issue is in the execution. These are errors caused by poor anticipation, bad timing, and a lack of defensive chemistry. Flick's high-line system depends on coordination, communication, and quick reactions. The moment one defender hesitates, everything collapses. And last season, that didn't happen. The line was tighter, more compact, and the timing was perfect. Because there was a player who could read the game a step ahead of everyone else. Someone who understood how to make that system look effortless. So now, when you look at how exposed Barcelona's backline has become, it's clear that losing Inigo wasn't just losing another defender, it was losing the brain of the defense. And that's exactly why Flick's system doesn't look the same anymore. A lot of people are blaming Hansi Flick's tactics for Barcelona's defensive struggles, but that's not really the issue. The system itself is good. In fact, it's one of the most structured and intelligent approaches Barcelona has had in recent years. The problem is the execution. Flick's setup is built around three key ideas: a high defensive line, aggressive pressing, and quick recovery transitions. When done right, it suffocates opponents. It keeps them trapped in their own half and allows Barcelona to dominate possession higher up the pitch. It's the kind of football that depends on trust. Every player has to move in sync. The defenders push up together, the midfield squeezes the space, and the forwards press with intent. That compactness is what makes the system so effective. But here's the thing, for a high line to work, you need defenders who read the game, not just chase it. They need to know when to step forward, when to drop, and how to anticipate danger before it happens. It's not about speed, it's about intelligence. If one player hesitates or drops too deep, the line breaks and the whole system collapses. That's what's been happening this season. Last year, with Inigo Martinez in the backline, that high line looked natural. The team pressed high, and even when opponents tried to play through, Barcelona could recover the ball quickly because Inigo positioned himself perfectly. He understood spacing. He knew how to control the tempo from the back, how to keep the defensive shape compact, and how to lead the line so that others followed. This season, you can see defenders reacting rather than anticipating. That's a big difference. When you react, you're already half a second too late, and in a high-line system, half a second is enough for an opponent to break through. That's why you keep seeing those moments where Araujo drops back while the rest push up. It breaks the shape and opens massive gaps. Flick's system itself hasn't failed. It's still the same structure that brought results last season. The difference is, the player who made it stable is gone. You can see it in the timing of the press, the hesitation in holding the line, and even the build-up from the back. Without Inigo's control and leadership, everything feels less organized, less certain. When Inigo Martinez played under Hansi Flick, everything about Barcelona's defense just clicked. The line moved together, the press was coordinated, and the team looked confident playing high up the pitch. Inigo wasn't just another centre-back, he was the organizer. Every time Barca pushed forward, he was the one adjusting the line, shouting instructions, and keeping everyone in sync. He had that mix of experience and awareness that made the whole system function smoothly. One of his biggest strengths was how perfectly he fit into Flick's high defensive line. That setup requires precision, one wrong step and the entire shape collapses, but Inigo had elite positional awareness. He knew exactly when to step up and when to drop off, reading opposition runs before they even happened. It wasn't about reacting, it was about anticipating. That's what allowed Barcelona to compress the field and stay compact. Without him, the line looks disjointed. One centre-back steps forward, another hesitates, and suddenly there's a gap big enough for opponents to exploit. What also made him crucial was his left foot. He was the only natural left-footed centre-back in the squad, and that small detail changed the rhythm of Barca's build-up entirely. When you have a left footer on the left, the passing angles open up. The ball moves faster, transitions are smoother, and it becomes easier to connect with players like Balde or Pedri. Replace that with a right-footed defender, and everything feels slower and more predictable. The team loses balance. Inigo's leadership and composure also made a massive difference. He brought calmness when things got chaotic. You could always see him talking, guiding Pau Kubasi, and keeping the backline compact. Flick even praised him for the intensity and professionalism he showed in training. When teams pressed high, Inigo never looked rushed. He took the right touch, found the right angle, and helped Barcelona escape pressure with confidence. That ability to stay composed and still move the ball forward under stress is rare, and it made Barca's build-up reliable. That's why his departure hit harder than most people realized. He might not have made the headlines, but tactically, he was the glue that held that defensive system together. And now, without him, Barcelona's backline looks uncertain, lacking that structure and coldness he brought. Which brings us to the next question. Why can't Araujo play like Inigo Martinez in this setup? In a high defensive line, raw pace doesn't automatically make you the better defender. People often assume that the faster centre-back is safer, but that's not how it works in a system like Hansi Flick's. Playing high up the pitch isn't about how quickly you can sprint back, it's about how well you read the game before danger even appears. Araujo, on the other hand, plays in a very different way. He's incredibly fast, powerful in duels, and almost unbeatable one-on-one, but his defending is reactive. Instead of stepping up to control the line, he often drops back too quickly, which breaks the defensive shape. Once that happens, there's space behind the midfield and gaps between centre-backs, and that's where opponents find joy. In a high line, that split second of hesitation can be the difference between an offside trap working perfectly or a forward running clean through on goal. Inigo offered something that Araujo still struggles with: control and calmness. He coordinated the line, stayed composed under pressure, and played with tactical discipline. His left foot gave Barcelona clean progression from the back, letting them play out smoothly even when pressed. Araujo, meanwhile, relies more on recovery speed and physicality than on positioning. When he's pressed, his passing sometimes looks rushed, and under Flick's system, that disrupts the build-up rhythm. It's not a question of who's the better individual defender, it's about who fits the system better. Araujo is exceptional in a deeper setup, where his recovery pace and aggression shine. But in Flick's compact, proactive structure, Inigo was simply the better fit. He made the high line function as a unit instead of a collection of individual reactions. And now that he's gone, Barcelona are learning that difference the hard way. You can see it every time Barca's defense gets caught off balance. The timing is off, the line isn't moving as one, and the communication just isn't there. What used to be a compact, synchronized backline under Flick has turned into a unit that reacts too late. Inigo used to anticipate those movements. He prevented transitions before they even started. Now, players like Araujo and Kubasi are left scrambling, relying more on recovery runs than on control. That's why Flick probably regrets letting Inigo go. He was built for this system, calm under pressure, technically secure, and tactically disciplined. Since his departure, Barcelona have looked vulnerable whenever opponents play quick transitions or long diagonal passes. The high line still exists in theory, but without Inigo's coordination, it's just not functioning the same way. And with El Clasico approaching, that's the biggest concern. Real Madrid loves playing against high lines. They thrive on exploiting space behind defenders. If Flick doesn't adjust, Madrid's quick attackers will tear through the gaps that keep opening up. So maybe that's what Flick will have to do: adapt. Just like he did against Newcastle, he might need to drop the defensive line a little deeper. Not abandon his philosophy, but bring it down into a zone where Araujo feels more comfortable, where his recovery speed becomes a weapon, not a crutch. In that space, Araujo can make a mistake and still have the ground to fix it, charging forward to win those duels without leaving the team completely exposed. It's a compromise Flick might not want, but right now, it could be the only way to bring stability back to Barcelona's defense. But what do you think? Does Hansi Flick regret selling him? Well, let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.